time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chad Erickson, on this election day. Great to have you with us for the next 60 minutes. Hopefully we can be a distraction from the fact that everybody is watching election night. I actually considered saying, let's just take the day off. And look, this isn't me being self-deprecating. It isn't me being... It's not anything other than the truth. I'm being, as my friends would say, I'm keeping it a buck. The reality is, most people are just going to be watching election coverage today. So my initial thought was, why are we even doing a show? Because we're generally, our show airs anywhere from 3 p.m. on the West Coast to 5 p.m. on the East Coast. But a lot of people aired in late nights, and that's fine. We're happy to be on wherever you air us. By the way, hello, Canada. We started there on Monday. Game Plus channel. We're on like half of Canada now. So we are an international show. Anyway, so I was like, why even do a show today? And then I was like, well, there's Monday Night Football, and there is some news that we want to get to, and we want to wrap up some things from the weekend. We call it weekend leftovers from the NFL. So I said, let's do a show. So Sam Yarnell, here we are, doing a show on Election Day. I don't know. Should be a national holiday. Everybody should be off. Nobody should have to work on Election Day. People should be able to have the time to go and vote, not have to squeeze it in at the end of a long shift at the end of the day. Exercise your civic duty. Make sure to get out and vote if you're watching us before the polls close. All right. If we're voting for best team in the NFL, some would say that the Kansas City Chiefs should be getting that vote. They remain undefeated after beating the Buccaneers last night. Look, and it's just in typical Kansas City Chiefs fashion. It ain't pretty. It isn't glamorous. It was a fun ending, obviously, and a wild finish to this game, but the Chiefs win again. They're 8-0, Sam. I'm still holding true to what I said on the show yesterday. I think the Baltimore Ravens are the best team in the NFL right now. And you can make the argument that Detroit is the second best team in the NFL right now. And that's with the Kansas City Chiefs being undefeated. We'll talk about some of the decision-making in this game. I think Todd Bowles is being unfairly maligned. We could talk about that, but give me your overall thoughts on the way this thing ended.
Very interested to get into that with you, Jason Page. Good to be with you as always. But this game for me was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of the narrative with the Chiefs, or at least surrounding the Chiefs and what we have to consider them going forward. This is a team, and I was actually talking to someone in the sports media world last night, Kevin Walsh, who I'm sure some of our viewers out there follow, and he made a great point. If you look back at each of the last 3 NFL seasons, including this season, every year we've had a team whose record just does not reflect who they really are. There's a clear and obvious fraud in the NFL. 2 years ago,
don't
it was
use
the Vikings.
the F word, not the F word. Come on.
Well, it's just the historical truth. 2 years ago, it was the Vikings. Last year, it was the Eagles. You and I sat here on this very show and said the Eagles are 10-1 and deserve to be probably 5-6 or 6-5. Unfortunately, this year it's the defending Super Bowl champions. I'm sorry, I hate to say it. The Kansas City Chiefs are a fraudulent 8-0. There is no way that this team deserves the record that they have earned so far in this season. There is no chance that the Chiefs have played perfect football this year. They haven't deserved to win every game. We'll get into the Todd Bowles decision last night. They didn't deserve to win last night's game against a team that is completely depleted and showed you that they are disheveled offensively and defensively, and the Chiefs played them at home. It really, I hate to say it, because they will probably go on to win the Super Bowl this year, but right now, the Chiefs are a fraudulent 8-0.
You can't be a fraud if you're going to wind up winning the Super Bowl. Let me a couple things I want to throw in here. One, we talked yesterday with the firing in New Orleans of Dennis Allen, right? And we talked about, the injuries and this and that. How's that team? Tampa Bay showed you last night you could be depleted, you could have injuries, and you could still compete. So I don't want to hear this whole thing about the Saints have all these injuries. Fine, they have injuries. But guess what? Every team in the league has injuries. And they still show up and compete. Kudos to Todd Bowles for that. 1, you think he should have gone for 2?
Oh, yeah, 100%. You've got a 2-yard play, and, I mean, analytically speaking, it's about a 30% chance. You make about 30% of the 2-point conversions against an undefeated team who, quite frankly, I mean, the Buccaneers backed themselves into that corner at the end of that game. You had one chance to get out of it, and you rely on a 50% coin toss instead of a 30% go for 2. I don't know.
I don't have a problem with it. Because I think too many coaches play riverboat gambler today. I think there are too many coaches today that play riverboat gambler and play it fast and loose. I don't have a problem for a change with the team saying, no, you know what? We'll take overtime. We fought this hard to get to this point. We'll take overtime and we'll take our chances there. I don't have a problem with Todd Bowles in that spot making that decision. Not all undefeated teams are created equal. We think of the last team to start this way and go on this run, a Super Bowl champion. You think of the Patriots when they ran the table and went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Giants. That team was smashing opponents throughout the whole year. I remember I was working at Sirius NFL radio at the time. They were smashing teams. They were embarrassing teams. So when they got their comeuppance in the Super Bowl, everybody was thrilled, obviously, about it, that the Giants were able to beat them. But to me, this Kansas City team is not that New England Patriots team. Every game with them feels like a one-game season. They're not thinking they don't fall into traps. They aren't thinking about who's next week, what happened last week. They're in that moment. This is the one thing that stands out. There's 2 things that stand out to me about this Kansas City team. That's one, that every game to them is a one-game season. You could just see it in the way they play. The second thing is this. There is a trust. There is a trust in that team that I'm going to do my job. The guy next to me is doing his job. I don't have to do his job for him. And to me, that's sort of the secret ingredient. I want to talk about this with Nick Ferguson when we get him on. That, to me, is sort of the secret ingredient. It's an intangible. It's something that doesn't show up in a statistic that I see in this Chiefs team.
There's another secret ingredient that they've been getting for a couple of years now, but this year is especially egregious. The calls that the Kansas City Chiefs are getting have to be taken into account here. They're being refereed completely differently than the 31 other teams in the league.
Why do I just hear sour grapes when it comes to Chiefs? Let's be happy they're undefeated. We're coming back. Coming up in 10 minutes, Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, friend of the program. Get some thoughts with him on the NFL, some college football maybe. Ask him about Colorado. He is a Heisman voter. Also, pick his brain on the Chiefs' win last night. I should also mention before we get into the NBA and college basketball here for a minute, Sam, just to sort of break up the monotony of football. It is NFL trade deadline day. By the time you watch this show, the deadline will have come and gone for, I think, just about the entire audience that we have. So unless something huge, really big breaks before we are done with this show, kind of a weird thing for us where we can't give you too much information. We'll obviously recap a lot of the trade deadline stuff on Wednesday's show, looking to get a really good NFL guest for you at that time. So, yes, Sam, you had something to say?
Well, I was just going to say, besides my early reporting that turns out the Dolphins left Jalen Waddle in Buffalo, apparently, and the Bills are giving them a 3rd-round pick back for him. Jalen Waddle's now a Bill? That's what the interns are telling me? Wishful thinking, maybe.
Yeah. Lions, by the way, in what is somewhat of an admission of the fact that Aiden Hutchinson is not coming back, made a trade. They get veteran defensive end Zadarius Smith
Oh,
deal.
see, you
in a
could
deal
have
with the
teed that up
Browns.
so much better. You could
What?
have said,
What?
we have breaking news. The Lions have traded for a star Cleveland edge rusher, and they've given up, I believe, multiple draft picks for him.
Yeah.
And people would have thought you meant Myles Garrett, but no. It's like the McDonald's meme. Bro wanted Myles Garrett, but ain't have Myles Garrett money. Get ready to learn, whoever it is they traded for, champ.
I was actually thinking, it's like the guy who goes to the airport and he's got the placard and he thinks he's picking up Michael Jordan and it's some white guy named Michael Jordan.
Right.
I was thinking that kind of thing. Yeah. All right. So with that all being said, college basketball has started, Sam Yarnell. Did you know? Because it kind of feels like it snuck up on us.
Of course I knew. We were giving out picks to the Substack users last night.
Yes.
Come on, opening day, the Prince of Picks came correct. We made money on college basketball yesterday.
What, did you make a half a unit? You made a half a unit.
I'm sorry, are you complaining about making money right now? Is that a real thing that's happening?
I don't know. The time invested, the emotion invested, I want more than a half a unit. I'm just saying, man. This is Substack. We've got people that are starting to follow us on Substack. By the way, if you are not doing it yet, the SportsWrap Substack. Go on Substack. Subscribe today. We will be giving out insider picks. Sam will give out most of them because I don't want you losing your money on my account. I don't want you knocking on my door or coming out here to Vegas, or if you're already in Vegas, knocking on the door and being like, "Dude, you just cost me like my mortgage." So. I'll let Sam give out.
If you're betting the mortgage on some picks you found on Substack, I got a great number for you to call.
Yes, you do. Gonzaga ran all over Baylor last night to start the season, and I don't go look. I don't go nuts about these early season college basketball results. And I know they wind up mattering when we get to Selection Sunday and the NCAA tournament and resumes. I appreciate all that. But at the same time, these teams are still kind of feeling each other out. Guys are getting used to playing together. But what Gonzaga did last night in Spokane, just absolutely laying the wood against Baylor, 101-63 the final. It perks your ears up a little bit.
It does. So this is interesting, right? Because this is a Baylor team that's built around a ton of transfers. Their big problem in this game, weirdly enough, was that they couldn't shoot the three. I think their starting backcourt went 1 of 9. 3 of their starting 5, their three best 3-point shooters in their starting rotation were like 1 of 14. They shot the 3-pointer at 14%. Gonzaga shot it at 41%. Yeah, that'll lose you a game by 40 points. My biggest takeaway from this game, though, I don't know if any of you saw the body that VJ Edgecombe caught on Mark Few's son in like a 30-point game with a minute and a half left, but it might be the dunk of the year in college basketball coming on night 1. If you haven't seen it, I urge you to go watch VJ Edgecombe. It was an absolute yam fest on the coach's son in the last couple of minutes in garbage time of that game.
Okay.
But listen, Gonzaga always does this, right? They always have some, I don't want to say top 10 because not always, but it's always like top 20 opponent they'll play in the first week of the season. They'll always blow them out because Gonzaga has that basketball system where their guys have been playing together already for 9 months, whereas these other teams only started a couple of weeks ago. This is Gonzaga basketball. They're going to beat some really good teams early in the season.
Cooper. I said Cooper. Cooper Flagg, made his debut last night for Duke. Just want to put that out there. 18 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. Filled up the stat sheet in a Blue Devils win over Maine. Where, by the way, his brother will be attending Maine. He's a 3-star recruit. He'll be going to Maine next year. Just wanted to
Right.
Throw that in.
Obviously, Cooper Flagg being from Maine, I believe that's why how this whole thing got scheduled. This game was actually close at halftime, which was weird to me.
Yeah.
Duke took a while to kind of find their mesh, but the main takeaway here is we're getting 1 year of Cooper Flagg in college basketball. Yep. We're gonna have to enjoy it. The kid is gonna be special, and either he or Ace Bailey are gonna be the #1 overall pick in this next year's draft.
2 games.
Some upsetting news to me from the world of the NBA. He will be back, and everything seems like it's okay.
So,
but Gregg Popovich, the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs, is out indefinitely right now. He's dealing with some health issues. So we just wanted to say all the best to Pop. He is an institution. I didn't realize he's like 75 years old, 74, 75 years old. I didn't realize he was that old.
I mean, Jason, think about when I think about the NBA in my lifetime, obviously, there's never been a point when Gregg Popovich has not been a head coach during it, which is insane to say. But you think about he has taken the Spurs now through 3 different iterations himself. Yeah. There was the pre-Manu Tim Duncan era. Mm-hmm. There was the Manu Tim Duncan era. Actually, I could argue 4. The post-Manu Tim Duncan era and now the Wemby era. I hope Gregg Popovich gets better. A staple of American basketball.
I agree with that. All right, Sam Yarnell, we have plenty more to do on this edition of Sports Wrap. Sam will return a little later on. Nick Ferguson joins us in a couple of minutes. Former NFL safety, a Heisman voter in Denver, knows a thing or two about the Broncos. We'll get his thoughts on all things football next. All right, let's get back to some NFL, segment 3 on Sports Wrap. By the way, if you haven't checked out our Substack yet, go and do it. Sports Wrap Substack. All sorts of bonus content from the show. Sometimes we have interviews that run long. We put the entire interviews up there in their entirety. You can get the podcast through there. Insider betting picks. Sam Yarnell put up his first edition of that last night. All right. Speaking of the NFL, our man Nick Ferguson hangs out with us, former NFL safety. Man, I don't see enough of your face anymore. I'm just going to say it. I don't see enough of that face anymore, and it bums me out.
Look, man, that's not on me. That's on you. Right? Yeah. So I'm serving Bali. I'm putting it right back into your court.
Wow. I hope you don't serve like that. Otherwise, we are in a world.
Of course. That would be like a pickleball serve right there.
Pickle! Let's talk about last night's game. I want to get your thoughts on what the Chiefs did in staying undefeated. And Sam and I were talking about it to start the show. So I think it's a good place to start for us. Not all undefeated. I'm going to tell you right now, my take on this is I think Baltimore's better than the Chiefs right now. I think the Lions are better than the Chiefs right now. I don't care what the records say. If you put all 3 of those teams and the playoffs started today, I think those 2 teams beat the Chiefs. What do you think?
Well, the Baltimore Ravens should have beat the Chiefs last year, but Todd Monken somehow went conservative and not allowing Lamar Jackson to do what Lamar Jackson does, and that's be great and efficient, being both a passer and a runner. But you say what you want to. You can dispute it all you want to. And yes, Baltimore's playing great football. The Lions are playing inspired football. But the only undefeated and remaining undefeated team is the Kansas City Chiefs, like it or not. And here's what's great about the Kansas City Chiefs, that they're winning ball games in fashions that we're not accustomed to, right? Because we're so used to seeing them blow people out, 14, 21 points or more, a lot of explosive plays. But if you look at Andy Reid and what the Chiefs look like right now, it is old throwback football, right? They're running the ball, they're passing the ball, they're being really efficient. And the thing about the Kansas City Chiefs is they know how to finish games. They've been there before. Because for me, it kind of reminds me of what the 20 years was like in New England with the Patriots. The roster didn't look great. Tom Brady didn't have a lot of muscular stature. He didn't really look like a football player, but they found ways to win games, and the games would be close. And then 2 minutes remaining. What were we saying in 20 years with Tom Brady? You look, I trust Brady with 2 minutes left in the game because some miracle The football gods are going to shine on the Patriots. That's what's happening with the Kansas City Chiefs. And think about it. Patrick Mahomes had 44 passing attempts. 44.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
Yeah, I agree. Let me ask you this. There's two things I notice about this Chiefs team, and I'll get your thoughts on. And they're things you cannot necessarily put in a box score or stat sheet. One is, from a mental standpoint, they really do just focus on what's right in front of them. They don't get caught up in what happened last game. They don't get caught in the trap of what's going to happen next game. They really are an in-the-moment, let's do what we have to do in this game right now, this play right now, and we're going to be okay. The other thing I notice, and as somebody who's played team sports way more than I have, I want to get your thought on this. When I watch them, I see a team that trusts each other. I see a team where guys trust one another. I'm going to do my job. The guy next to me is going to do his. And if we all just do that down the line, we're going to find a way to win. What do you say to those two things?
Yeah, you know exactly what that sounds like? It sounds like the Patriots way, doesn't it? Right? Everyone, do your freaking job. And think about it. Nuke Hopkins comes from the Tennessee Titans, and I know he is thanking his heavenly God that the Titans moved him to Kansas City because he fit right in. And everyone was wondering, like, why the Chiefs are trading for Hopkins? I mean, he doesn't have that game-breaking speed. That's not why. They're bringing him for his ability to block, which he showed last night against Tampa Bay. His leadership, his ability to catch and be reliable as far as in the passing game, because Patrick Mahomes falling on the ground. He throws a chicken wing in a prayer. There are two Bucs players there. You're like, someone's going to make this play, right? JP, someone's going to make this play. No, Nuke Hopkins makes this play. That's why they brought him on the team. And now Kareem Hunt. Remember Kareem Hunt was that guy that no one wanted to touch. He was like Ray Rice. But guess what? When he's in a Chiefs uniform, they know what to do with him, and he knows what to do. And, oh, by the way, the Chiefs are going to get Isaiah Pacheco back. Are you kidding me? I mean, why did they keep giving this team more weapons? So this is the most dangerous team in the NFL, despite Baltimore, despite the Lions, because they know they can win at any point in the game, no matter what the scenario is.
Yeah, Baltimore to me is a juggernaut offensively. But the one thing that I look at when it comes to the Ravens is, can they defend enough, or are they just going to have to outscore teams because they're worst in the league against the pass? So their strategy is, we're going to outscore everybody. But the thing is, Nick, they might be able to outscore everybody. Like, they're that good offensively. They can beat you 5 different ways, 6 different ways, it feels like, with that team, between Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, now what they've added in the receiving game. To me, I think from an offensive standpoint, I think they're about the most well-rounded offense you're going to find in the league.
I would definitely agree with that. And watching both Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson get going against the Broncos, who, arguably they were one of the better defensive units.
They are, yeah.
And hey, look, that's not an indictment on the Broncos defense, because people criticizing the Broncos defense. Well, they let the team down. Like, no, the Broncos offense didn't help out. But one thing Baltimore did, when Tom Munkins was running the ball through the teeth of the Broncos defense with Derrick Henry, they did not bail on the run game. They just adjusted and adapted. And here's what they did. They made one minor adjustment, and it changed everything. Instead of running inside, guess what they started running? Outside. There are less defenders there. And that means that we're going to put your safety, your corner, your nickel, or your linebacker one-on-one with Derrick Henry. And I'm going to tell you what, you're going to lose that.
I want to ask you about the Broncos. I'm going to hold you over. We'll do one more shorter segment coming up here in a couple minutes. I want to ask you about the Broncos. I want to ask you about the Buffaloes, not the Buffalo Bills, the Buffaloes. Deion Sanders in Colorado. They're going bowling. Yay. But have they beaten anybody? We're going to talk about it. Nick Ferguson hanging out with us on SportsWrap. Don't go anywhere. All right, we're talking NFL and college football with Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety with the Broncos, the Jets, and as Sammy Arnell always likes to remind me, the Bills. Let's talk a little Broncos, NFL trade deadline. I was hoping they'd add something in the receiving game to sort of help out Bo Nix, but obviously, that remains to be seen. By the time this show airs, we will have seen if they did anything at the deadline. Where did you think this team needed to improve itself most, Nick?
On the offensive side of the ball and receivers. Like Josh Reynolds was brought in from Detroit, and Josh is somewhat of a possession receiver. Obviously, he had an altercation here in Denver. He went to a shoe model club and ended up getting shot. And that was kind of kept under wraps. So he hasn't played for a while. You have Devon Villay, who was a young guy who I guess the organization thought that he was a younger version of Tim Patrick, who is living a better life with the Detroit Lions right now. But Villay is just another possession receiver. And they drafted Troy Franklin out of Oregon because of his speed, but he hasn't really been implemented that much. Marvin Mims, who went to the Pro Bowl last year as a returner, and I think he has dynamic ability. He hasn't been deployed the way that he should be. So there's not a lot of explosion in the Broncos offense right now. And for me, I listened to Coach Payton. He said, well, in New Orleans, he had a joker, right? And that joker is that player, that impact player that you could count on all the time to make impactful plays. Taysom Hill, they turned into that joker type of player because he wasn't going to play the quarterback position at a high level. For me, I say go out and get Laviska Shenault. And I know that doesn't sound great for a lot of people, but I look at it for the dynamic playmaker ability, right? Because he can be the joker. He's a big wide receiver. You can line him up in the tight end position, which means you match him up with a linebacker or a smaller DB in the slot. You can put him at running back position like, the 49ers use with Deebo Samuel. Now, once again, this is not a guy that jumps off the pages, but I say, well, you know what? This is a guy that's not going to cost you that much for draft capital to acquire him from Seattle, and then you're not going to have to pay him that much, and then you get a chance to see how that kind of works creatively in the offense with Bo Nix. But for me, Bo Nix needs more help around him. It is a traditional saying we say about any quarterback, but this offense doesn't have that game-breaking ability. We talked about Baltimore, what they can do. Like Derrick Henry, and you think about Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, Lamar Jackson. I mean, those are impact players. Those are your jokers. Right now, the Broncos don't have that guy.
There were a lot of people down on Sean Payton after the last couple of years, in Denver with the Broncos. And I get the sense that there's been a turnaround. Based on what we've seen with this team with Bo Nix, how he's worked with this rookie quarterback, and how this Broncos team has really come together. And I get the sense there's a real feeling of optimism in Denver. Do you share that optimism?
Yeah, the optimism is for two reasons. One, the Broncos finally have someone they can say is their quarterback of the future. Regardless of the minor mistakes that we see from Bo Nix from time to time with his footwork and maybe his decision-making, that will come along. But looking at how he's progressed to this point, he fits the mold of today's quarterback, being very mobile and agile, and you just have to create
strong too, Nick. He's strong.
Absolutely. But the biggest reason the Broncos are where they are right now is not because Sean Payton. It's not because Bo Nix. It's because of their defense and Vance Joseph and what those players have done collectively. When you look at that defense, they don't have household names, right? I mean, they don't have top draft picks. The one guy you look at, you say PS2, that's the guy. All the other guys, third, fourth round draft picks, right? And they playing together great as a unit, but not too many people are talking about Vance Joseph and what the defense has done. Now, after Sunday's game against Baltimore, now people are talking about Vance, but they're talking about him in a negative way. And I say, man, for all those people down on the Broncos defense after what happened in Baltimore, I say they can kick rocks and they can pound sand because this is an ultimate team game. When you look at the fact that the Broncos did not score in the first quarter, third quarter, or the fourth quarter, and they went 1 for 4 in the red zone. You can't blame that on the defense. You had opportunities. They made stops. You have to convert. So when we talk about this Broncos team, we just can't talk about it as Bo Nix, which, once again, to reiterate, they found their quarterback, but not just about Sean Payton. You got to give validation to that defense too as well.
Before I let you go, I want to get a thought on Colorado. They're 6-2. They are bowl eligible, and heck, I mean, there's an outside shot they could be playing for a Big 12 championship. Oh, stop! It's not going to happen. I mean, look, they're 0-1 against their one ranked opponent.
You just said yourself, there's a chance. Right? You said it. You said it. So there is a chance, and by them having being idle last week. Iowa State lost and Kansas State lost too as well, which bumped them from 23 to 21. All they have to do is just win out from here, from this point on. Just win out and just kind of let things happen the way they need to happen. But I know you're not a huge Buff fan anyway.
No, I mean, look, I love what Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter have done. I got about 40 seconds here. Where do you see the biggest potential hiccup for them between Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma State?
Well, I mean, it's Texas Tech. I mean, you got to deal with the first game in front of you. If you can't win that game, don't worry about the ones behind. And once again, because they saw other teams in the Big 12 lose, they have an opportunity before them. Now, let's see if they can put their best foot forward, win this game. They win this game, the conversation changes, JP. It changes. And what you stated before, chances, they have a chance. That's all you're trying to do.
This cannot be a playoff team. This cannot be a playoff team.
There's a chance. Because there's 12 teams now, JP. There's 12 teams.
Right. I got to go. Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety. I appreciate it.
Oh, okay. Good seeing you, man.
Hopefully we are distracting you a little bit from the fact that it is election day, election night. Which, by the way, we could be doing this show on Friday and still not have any idea who won this election. That is the chances you are watching this show right now and we actually know who won this general election, the presidential election, are slim and none. Let's just be honest about it, Sam. There's a very good chance we get to Friday and we're doing Page versus the Prince going, hey, who won that presidential election? Oh, we still don't know. Just saying. No? Nothing? You went Walt Disney on me?
No. I mean, listen, the American political system is an interesting one and one that has, shown its power for over 200 years now. So let's keep that streak going.
Okay, fair enough. So anyway, in the vein of the fact that it is the presidential election, that is election day, and people are out there casting votes, I got to thinking, maybe overthinking, which wouldn't be shocking for me. If we were to elect a president for all of sports, somebody to oversee all of it, you'd still have your commissioners, which would be like governors. We'd treat our commissioners of leagues would be like the governors. They'd be like the states. But you had one grand poobah, one person that headed up all of sports. I'm looking for nominations, Sam Yarnell. I'm looking for nominations for the person to lead all of sports. And you say to that?
Stan Kroenke.
What? Why
Stan Kroenke?
Why Stan
Kroenke, to me, is the clear and obvious president of world sports. Sure, we can do it just on a national scale. We can also do it on a global scale. I think that the answer is the same no matter what. Stan Kroenke is a man who owns multiple franchises in multiple Big Four American sports leagues. This is a guy who is more tied in across the sports. Not to mention he also owns Arsenal, like one of the most historic and largest clubs in world football, but also in England. The way that this guy's tied in the sports world is crazy because it's not just Colorado where he owns the Nuggets and also the Avalanche, two teams that are in title contention seemingly every year for the last 5 years. He also owns a large contingent of the Los Angeles Rams, a team who won the Super Bowl less than a decade ago. Arsenal, obviously, I'm not sure, our viewers may not be familiar, but perennial contenders in the Premier League and a bunch of UCL, UEFA Champions League's berths to this point. I don't have the exact figures in front of me. All that said, Stan Kroenke has demonstrated that he is an owner that can go into multiple organizations and build title-winning cultures and kind of nurture what it takes to be the best at whatever sport you're playing. So I think, to me, Stan Kroenke, with all of the vast experience that he has and all the connection he has across leagues, MLB really being the only one where he's not connected, Stan Kroenke to me is the president of sports in the country and also the world.
Can I throw one out there? And a lot of it has to do with his business acumen, but also his willingness to sort of stand up on big issues. I'd go Mark Cuban. I think Mark Cuban, if we were talking about somebody to head up all of sports, to make sure that business is thriving, business is good. To me, Mark Cuban would be a guy that I would turn to and say, all right, you oversee all of it. And again, a president doesn't have to have his hands in every single thing, but just somebody to kind of be the, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but that person to sort of just oversee all of it and take care of it and make sure everything's okay. I'd go with Mark Cuban.
I think that if we did go with Mark Cuban, the Shark Tank panel
Steward
has to be like the Senate for him, or maybe the House of Representatives or whatever it is. Because, I mean, if Mark Cuban is the president of sports, we're making a reality show out of it. Come on.
By the way, I'm a huge Shark Tank fan.
You want to move the franchise? Sure. You got to come pitch it to me and the other Sharks. I think that is now listen, you want to talk about business booming. That's how you make a lot of money on sports, is you turn it all, not that it's not already, but you turn it into a reality TV show. Wow.
Yeah. Did you say you had another one?
So the other one that flashed through my mind for a little bit was, and this was more based on the kind of political thing, but it would be like a former president, Obama.
I was thinking Obama. I was thinking
just
about
because
Obama. Yeah.
the obviously the connection he showed with basketball throughout his time in office and even after, but like, it just always felt like no matter which team or which group of people won any championship in their major sport in the U.S., there was never hesitation to go to the White House and visit Obama, as it feels like, frankly, there has been since he left office. So in terms of like unity and that kind of thing, not necessarily as much the management, because I can't really draw comparisons there. But in terms of the unity and just like the all around message, I think he would do a pretty good job at keeping each one of the four major sports separate while also uniting them.
Yeah, I like that one. I think Obama would be a good one. All right, we got odds and ends coming up right around the corner. And in odds and ends, we have some NBA to talk about. And Jason Kelce addressed a weekend incident that put him on the front pages of TMZ. We'll get to that as well. Stick around. This Election Day edition of SportsWrap continues. Don't go anywhere. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Tuesday edition of the show. Before we do, a whole bunch of reminders, because that's what we do. It's like your flight attendant before the plane takes off. Few things. One, SportsWrap with Jason Page podcast. Go and check it out if you have not done so yet. Subscribe. It's now available in a whole bunch of places. Spotify, YouTube. We're now there on YouTube. You can get it through our Substack. It's also there now. The SportsWrap Substack. Go and subscribe to it. It's free. It's great. We have all sorts of amazing content there. The podcast also available. Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Odyssey, you name it. We're on all of them. Back to the Substack for a second. If you have not subscribed yet, go and do so. It is free. all sorts of bonus content from SportsWrap is there. We just launched it on Monday. There's going to be even more content coming to it. There it is. Look at that. There you go. See? Sam's got it right there for you. Wow. I know. It's a lot of podcasts. Trust me, I know. I've been adding them to it took like hours and hours for it to be added to Substack and YouTube. So go and check that out. Yes, Sam.
210 episodes, man. That's what I'm trying to do the math here. That's like
there's actually
5 months.
There's actually more. They're still adding them. I think there's like 250 going back to like before
so go back
we were
and listen
on
to
TV.
the takes Jason and I had this time last year.
And then you may never watch or listen again. Great. All right, Sam Yarnell, without any further delay, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. The end for one young man's phone after Jason Kelce smashed it to pieces this weekend, Sam. Look, you get what you get, right? I mean, this guy got what he deserved for using the F word that rhymes with maggot. And I have said this before. If you want to see me get violently angry, just use that word. Use the F word, that disparaging word, and you'll see me get violently angry. And Jason Kelce, somebody used that word in relation to his brother and his relationship to Taylor Swift. Jason Kelce was not happy about it. He smashed the guy's phone to pieces and then said, how you like me now? This is the tale of F around and find out. You know, you do that stuff, that's what's going to happen to you. Now, Jason Kelce, for his part, apologized last night during the Monday Night Football broadcast, or before the Monday Night Football broadcast between the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. I will tell you, it looked like a hostage video. It looked like ESPN said, you've got to do something about this. Get on camera and apologize. He basically just said, I apologize. I met hate with hate. He basically said, I got to do better. But it was basically a minute and 20. If you want to see what it looks like to watch a grown man die on television, metaphorically speaking, this is what that was. He had to go out there and do it. I don't think he was sincere about it. I don't think he regrets it one bit. And by the way, if I was him, I would not regret it one bit.
No, he shouldn't. I wouldn't either. The kid had it coming. Ridiculous that he was made to apologize for such a thing. I think there is, how do I put this nicely? One faction of America that would refer to that as snowflake culture. But regardless, tough week for Penn State. I'm not going to address the Jason Kelce apologizing thing because, again, I wholeheartedly and fundamentally disagree with it. I don't think he should have had to. I think that kid is a piece of human trash and had it coming. What a tough week for Penn State, especially when it comes to like this kind of thing. You had the James Franklin thing, then you had this kid, then you had the embarrassment they did on the field. I mean, really, one of the tougher weeks to be a Penn State fan. So all you Penn State fans out there, I sympathize with you, unless you sympathize with that kid, in which case you deserved all of this. Yeah, that's my takeaway here.
Fine.
Tough week in Happy Valley.
Not happy times for the Los Angeles Lakers. They lost to the Pistons last night. By the way, don't look now. The Pistons have won 2 in a row. But the Lakers lost to the Pistons last night. And not only did they lose to the Pistons last night, they may have lost Anthony Davis for a time. Foot injury, shocking. Anthony Davis is hurt. In other news, water is wet. Davis did have 37 points, 9 rebounds in the loss. LeBron had 20, 11, and 8. But Lakers dropped to 4-3, Pistons to 3-5, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Tobias Harris in this game was somebody we haven't seen him be that Tobias Harris since pre-Philly. Tim Hardaway also had a coming out party, which was kind of weird. And listen, Cade and Jaden are starting to look good. This is a team that shot like what, almost 25% from 3. This team is going to get hot eventually. It might be now. On the Lakers side, obviously, there's concern without AD. You kind of have to predict this kind of thing happens every season. The almost 40 piece was nice, though. tough that it wasn't enough to keep them in that game, especially as well as LeBron played for this point in his career. Again, that to me is still going to be the biggest underrated narrative this season. There's one other player who's played this long, or as long as LeBron James has. LeBron scored as many points as they did in the season in a quarter.
All 5 Pistons in double figures in that game last night. So that's a good sign as well. Hey, how'd your Wizards do against the Warriors? We're not talking about that?
The Wizards are coming, but yesterday wasn't it?
They're coming. They're just not here yet. Okay. Does it for us. Thank you, Nick Ferguson. Thanks, Sam Yarnell. We'll see you all back here on Wednesday.